What's up, trainers? In today's video, I'm going to walk you through an incredible deck in the new meta that I think is poised to be absolute top meta here moving forward. And that is a deck that brings in the new package or engine that combines Suicune Ex with Mantyke. Now, for me, I tested this package in a lot of different shells and found that Blastoise, Palkia, Greninja, Gyarados, all of them either just felt a little bit too slow, too inconsistent, or relied on Misty flips in order to be successful. And I wanted to have something that didn't need to rely on Misty at all. So I went ahead and I put this engine inside of a Starmie X shell. That's right, brought back an old school legend from the first set. And I actually had a lot of success with this deck. Now, as soon as I put it in this shell and played with it, I went on a 5-game win streak, and this deck felt incredible. No matter what, if you're going first, if you're going second, you have so many different ways to play this. And honestly, there's not a bad start that you can have. Right? You can start with Mantyke and start pumping either a Suicune or a Starmie so that you're hitting on turn 3. You can put the Suicune up in the lead spot and get card draw from the very beginning of your first turn. You really don't have a bad start, and that's why I love this deck so much. Now, if you like content like this and want to see more of it, I highly recommend that you like the video and subscribe to the channel. And I'd love to hear in the comments if you've been having success with the Suicune Ex Mantyke package. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the specific deck that I was using. All right, so the deck that I decided to run is obviously containing that Suicune Ex and Mantyke package, and then paired with two of a Staryu and Starmie X to really just round it out and give it a little more flexibility and hitting power and stay power. Outside of that, I'm running kind of a traditional trainer package here with Cyrus, Irida, Mars, and Sabrina, and then the Leaf is there to really be able to pull your Suicune Ex out without having to burn the energy so that you can bring the Starmie in and then kind of, use the 0 retreat cost of the Starmie to pull it back out when you need to bring the Suicune back in and start hitting, while using that extra energy to build up maybe a backup Suicune or a backup Starmie, which is what makes this deck super, super powerful. You'll notice I'm also running 2 capes here, which is really important because one of the downfalls of Starmie X is its HP value only being 130. So having that giant cape really helps put it above a lot of the different core breakpoints that are out there, in particular Giratina X. And then for Suicune, same thing. You've got that cape that kind of puts it at that 160 HP range, which is great for things like Charizard, so it can survive one attack from Charizard and be able to swing back, which is really a game changer for this deck. Now, outside of that, the deck really just works by basically, if you're turn 1, you either play the Mantyke and start pumping a Starmie or a Suicune so that you can swing with it on turn 3, or leading Suicune X so that you're getting that card advantage really early on and then building it up while then also starting to build up something in the back. And then lastly, you could also be leading with your Starmie or Staryu and try to build into a Starmie so that you're hitting on turn 4 as early as possible, which honestly is, was one of the strongest starts you could have in the first series and is actually the worst start you can have with this deck. So that just goes to show how, awesome this deck is when it comes to all the different ways that it can kind of start. There's not really a bad way to start this deck off unless you kind of get stuck with maybe like 2 Mantykes in your hand and aren't able to draw into anything else, which never actually happened to me. Now, I also mentioned that there is a non-X Suicune in here with that's really just there to handle Oricorios, which you'll see in the games that I play kind of how that works out. But deck is really straightforward. Let's go ahead and take it into a few of the matchups and just kind of see how you want to play this deck and all the different ways that it can be used against some of the core meta. All right, heading into the first matchup here, we're going to see Electric Energy. So we're going to assume that this is probably a deck with Oricorio in it. You could be that Arceus Pichu deck. It could be a number of decks that are running around. And so we're going to go ahead and see the type Null. And so we know exactly what we're playing against here. It's a deck that wants to move very, very fast and then leverage those Oricorios for our X Pokemon. And so here you see we're leading Suicune X, so we're going to get that card draw immediately as we are going first. And we're going to go ahead and play that Staryu behind it. And you can see we have that Starmie in hand to be able to start building up. So, the issue here is that we do have that Oricorio in the lead. And so we're going to watch and see if they place the energy on Oricorio. Now, if they put the energy on Oricorio, our goal is essentially to try to draw into our Suicune non-X as quick as possible and start building that up. Now, we really don't want to be wasting energy on anything else except for building that up, because it does take 3 energy, and we don't have our Mantyke here to be able to kind of ramp us up on it. We do have the leaf, so that means we can actually take a couple hits on the Suicune Ex and then use that leaf to be able to kind of pull it back if we need to, and you know, might have to throw a cape on it so that it can survive 2 of those Oricorio hits. So you see here we go ahead and play the Starmie, we play our backup Suicune, and here honestly that last spot is reserved for that Suicune non-X version, and we're really hoping that we can draw into it. Here we're going to use the Sabrina to tempo the opponent and just slow them down a little bit to give us time to be able to find that Suicune. So this is a really important move, using that Sabrina now in order to tempo the opponent out a little bit. So unless they have something like an X speed or maybe an elemental shift card or whatever that thing is called, they're not going to be able to actually hit us on this turn, which actually is super, super important. And so we're going to go ahead and see what they end up doing with their energy. Are they going to start building that Silvally up in the back? Or are they going to go all in on their Oricorios, assuming that we actually don't have any non-X Pokemon? And it looks like that's what they're going to do. So here, this is great. We actually draw into our Suicune non-X, so we're going to immediately start building that up here. And then we can, you know, obviously survive ideally 1, maybe 2 hits on the Suicune Ex before pulling it back with the leaf, and at that point we will be ready to swing with our Suicune as well. Now the other thing we're going to have to kind of figure out here is, now our Suicune does have 100 HP, and so what that means is that the Silvally can one-shot it when we take out their Oricorio. Now that's problematic, and that's where the cape becomes really, really important here. So we have to make the decision, are we going to save the cape to put on the Suicune X so that it can survive an extra move, or are we just going to sacrifice the Suicune and just try to basically go all in with our backup Suicune and our Starmies? And so here, once again, we're going to go ahead and use the energy, put it on our Suicune. We want to get that as close as possible. And here we have a decision to make, right? Like, do we just let our Suicune go down, or do we put the cape on it, right? Or do we save the cape for our backup Suicune? And so this is something that is really important. And so you're going to see here, we're trying to make that decision. What do we do? What do we do? What's important? Do we give up the 2 points, or do we put our Suicune at risk of being able to go down and leaving us with nothing to take out that backup Oricorio? And this is the right move here. We use the cape on the backup Suicune because that is the most valuable Pokemon that we have. It is the only thing that is going to get us through this opponent's deck. Now here, you'll also notice that we have a Mars and a Professor's Research, but we're all going to draw a card from Suicune anyways. And so we could also use the leaf, pull the Suicune back, and bring the Starmie up, and also take a hit on that. But then that's going to put all of our kind of like hitters in a really bad position later on in the game. So instead, you see, we're going to go ahead and actually just sacrifice our Suicune X here. This hurts. It is going to take 2 points, but we have that Mars. Now, what's awesome about this is if they do decide to take our Suicune X, we're essentially going to rob their entire hand from them and leave them with 1 card. Now, this is extremely strategic because the way this deck likes to work is it needs trainer cards, supporter cards for the Silvally to be able to hit for 100. And so if we're able to go ahead and just clean their hand out, that actually is really, really, really important for us. And so you can see the opponent's trying to figure out what are they going to do, right? Do they want to go ahead and swing into the Suicune X and take it out, or do they want to do something else here? And so I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they're looking at playing another card. Maybe they're thinking about putting another Pokemon on the bench, which is also problematic because if we do decide to build up and get to that second Suicune, it's only going to make it more powerful. And so here, they decide to swing into the Suicune, they take it out, and then now this sets up our Mars perfectly. So we've got that cape on our Suicune. We can go ahead and pull that in, and we don't really have any fear of something like Sabrina, right? Because we have that Starmie X, we can always pull it in and then retreat it back if we need to. So we're going to go ahead, use the Mars, we're just going to rip their hand up, leave them with 1 card, and then we're going to place the energy most likely on either the backup Staryu, since we do have another, or on the Suicune, and then start building up that Starmie in the back. Or go ahead and start building up that Suicune in the back. And so really going to try to figure out what makes the most sense here. Probably build up this backup Starmie because that free retreat cost does give us more flexibility to kind of bounce in and out with those 2 Pokemon while also hitting for a consistent 90 and not relying on the opponent to have to fill their bench with additional Pokemon. So you see here, this is what's great about this, right? So do they have a trainer card, a supporter card? They don't. So they're only actually hitting for 50 here, and then this is great. We can now swing in with our Starmie X and then know that we can survive just about anything they throw back at us. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, if they have a Cyrus, we could be in trouble, right? Because they could just Cyrus that Suicune up. So the question is, do we use the Irida in order to put it out of range for Silvally? And it looks like that's what we're going to do here. And so rather than use the professor's research, even though we're sitting on 2 of them in our hand, we don't even need those cards, and we're already drawing all the cards that we really need, which is the power of Suicune Ex you see here. You also notice we didn't even have to rely on Mantyke once in this game, right? Like, we didn't need any ramp. We're literally playing against probably our hardest counter deck, and we are now in a really, really good position. So they can, swing into our Starmie if they want to, and try to take that out. We can then bring our. Oh, this is actually even better here, because now there's nothing that they can really do to take out our Suicune, because they've now played that Cyrus, so Giovanni can't be used. We know that we're going to survive here. We can go ahead and use our Leaf, pull our Suicune back, save the energy on it, which is also really, really important, and then bring that Starmie X and clear out their Silvally. And at that point, unless they have something like a cape that they can put on their Oricorio, we are in a really, really good spot. And this is why that Mars was so important, right? It just completely stole all of those cards out of their hands. So a cape that they might want to put on Oricorio, a supporter card so that they're hitting for 100 on Silvally, which honestly, with that Cyrus they drew next turn, would have been enough to be able to beat us, right? Like, showed you just how flexible this deck is and how many different ways that it can actually go in and beat some of these really hard counter decks that are generally doing exactly what they want to be doing against us, right? Like, they got double Oricorio, they had energy advantage, they were able to come in and start hitting us for super effective damage. We had to go down an X Pokemon right at the very beginning, and we were still able to kind of claw our way out of here. And so I think they see that the writing's on the wall, unless there's something that they drew into, like a Cyrus, a second Cyrus. There's not a whole lot they could do. Even a Sabrina wouldn't save them, which is what they're going to do. We know we can just bring our Starmie X up. With the free retreat cost, we can pull it back. And that's what's amazing about this deck, is with the Mantykes and with the Starmie X's, you have so many ways to maneuver without having to drop any energy. And so here, we're just going to go ahead, pull the Suicune in, and I think at that point they know that this game is over, and we're going to go ahead and take a game against what honestly was considered to be the biggest hard counter, I would say, in the meta currently to the deck that we were playing. Now, it was an 8.5 minute game, so it wasn't easy. It was long, but we were able to pull it out. All right, heading into the second game here, we're going to go ahead and see that we are going first, which honestly is ideal for this deck, even though we don't really care. We see electric energy again, and not once again, this could be problematic, right? Like, we're going to take super effective damage from electric energy. Or electric Pokemon, and we see that there's the Zeraora and the Arceus on deck, and so we know exactly what this is. It's the Pichu Arceus kind of hit for 130 on turn 3, turn 4, depending on when you're going. And I did a video on this deck a couple weeks ago, and it's insane. It's honestly an unbelievable deck, and is still good in this current meta. And so here we see that we've got our Mantyke in the lead going first, Staryu in the back with a Starmie on deck ready to be evolved into, and we've got our Suicune here as well. Now, this is kind of a mistake. So rather than playing that Suicune X, I should have waited to save that spot for the non-X Suicune, because this deck does run at least one Oricorio, and that could be problematic for us. So here you see we've already been able to get that energy and basically steal energy advantage using that kind of Mantyke here. And we're going to go all in on evolving into our Starmie and hitting with our Starmie. Now, we have that cape that we know we can play on Starmie, which will put it out of range of a full Arceus hit if they decide to get that energy on it. And so here we actually know that because we can evolve into this Starmie, we can go ahead, pull this up and snipe their Zeraora, which is awesome because they kind of need that energy the Zeraora generated in order to ramp their Arceus up super quickly, which now they're not going to be able to do. So this is perfect. This actually slows them down just enough to where we can actually turn the tide of this game, right? Like their goal is to essentially get Arceus online as soon as possible, right? And if you're not able to do that with this Arceus deck, a lot of times it just doesn't have the sustain power in order to carry you into the mid to late game, right? It's a deck that just wants to run you over super quick and then leverage Oricorio down the road if for whatever reason you're faced up against an X deck that can go over the top of you. And so here we're going to go ahead and see what they're doing. They've got 2 energy on their Arceus, so unless they have, they can fill the bench and they have a red card, or sorry, a red in hand, which it doesn't look like they do since they are going to burn the leaf and looks like pull up their Zeraora in order to protect that Arceus from taking a shot. And so, which is pretty smart on their part. They can afford to give up another single point prize here and then just, rely on that Arceus in the back. And so here we're going to go ahead once again, take out their other Zeraora. And so what the other thing that this is doing, which is kind of nice, is that it is actually clearing out basic Pokemon that they have, which prevents them from potentially filling out their bench so that the Arceus can swing at full strength. Now, is it really going to matter? Probably not. And so here they use the Sabrina, and I'm not sure this is actually a great idea, right? Like we are totally fine with bringing the Mantyke up and giving up that single point here, right? And leaving our Starmie Ex in a position where it's like fully healthy, right? So this just buys us a whole nother turn where we have a full health Starmie Ex that we can hit with. It allows us to put a energy on our backup Suicune as well, so that way we have both of them ready to go, and if we need to, we can actually, swap them out, hit and run and swap them out, and then also gives us time to be able to draw into something like a Sabrina or a Cyrus, which is all we really need to be able to close this game out here. So, they can't swing unless they have a red. There's no way they can swing into this, and they know that that's the game right there. All right, starting the third game here, we're going to go ahead and take a look and see that we are going to win the coin toss and go first, so pretty ideal for us. We see water energy on the other side, and so we can only assume that this is most likely going to be somebody that's leveraging the Suicune Ex and maybe even the Mantyke package just like us. And so we're going to go ahead and wait and see what they're going to put down, and we see the Eevee and we see the Giratina, so this is going to be a deck that's going to lean on Greninja, Sylveon for card draw, and then Giratina for closing power. And you see here we are actually leading Suicune, so this is great in the sense that we're going to be in a position where we will be able to have some really good card draw early on, but we are going to be a bit slower when it comes to pressuring the opponent and attacking. And so here we go ahead, we get that kind of first turn card advantage, which is awesome. We're going to wait and see what the opponent does here. And so we're going to guess that they're most likely going to start building up energy on the Giratina, or if they're really looking to fill their hand here, they could actually use the Eevee and keep really slow that Giratina down a turn, which honestly could be really, really, really good for us, right? Like we honestly are in a position where we have a bit of a slower start. And so because of that, them deciding to forego the energy on the Giratina does actually put us in a pretty good position here. So the question is, where do we put our energy? And we're going to go ahead and just bank on putting it on that lead Suicune here. And knowing that at this point, there's nothing they can really do because they don't have that Froakie down. So they can't even hit us for anything next turn, right? Like the best they could do is actually just, evolve into that Sylveon and, maybe swing into us for 70 because they do have that psychic energy. So that is a potential here, but honestly, nothing that we're too afraid of. And so we go ahead and actually just use the Sabrina to pull that Giratina up and actually just put it, give us the opportunity to start hitting and chipping on it, which is important because honestly, the Giratina is their closer Pokemon. So if we can actually take that out early on, then that really, really handicaps this deck, right? They're in a position where they literally have to lean on Sylveon and on Greninja in order to close us out, and with our heals and with our flexibility, being able to bounce in and out, that's just going to be really, really hard for them. And so you see here, once again, drawing into, pretty much a dead card. Sitting on these 2 Mantykes isn't going to do anything for us. Maybe we could use them to fill our bench down the road so that Suicune is hitting at, maximum power. But instead, we decide to just go in and actually hit them with Mars, which honestly just, really sets us up to be able to use another supported card next turn if we draw into one. And so that way we're not sitting on that Mars, even though we could just wait to hold it until they clear our lead Suicune and then, gut their hand. But our goal is really to just try to slow them down as much as possible, get rid of that Giratina X, which, we'll see what they do. Are they going to actually leave that thing in, or are they going to pull it back and commit to it? So here they go ahead and red card us, which is honestly amazing. We had like garbage in our hand, nothing that we really wanted. And this is nice because we now have our second cape, which we can throw either on the backup Suicune or Starmie, depending on which one we decide to start building up next. And then the leaf allows us to be able to pull that lead Suicune out before having to let it go down to the Giratina. Now, something to also consider here is that the cape, look, it puts our Suicune Ex in a position where even a chip shot from Greninja and a full shot from Giratina doesn't knock us out, right? So that's actually really, really important here, and why capes are so important in this meta, because this Greninja Giratina deck is actually really, really prevalent, and there's also a Suicune X version of it as well that I think is even better. And so here we're going to go ahead and start building up the shiny Starmie X, because why not? It's shiny. We might as well go ahead and do that. And here my guess is they're most likely going to bring their Sylveon in. Now, them deciding to actually put their Froakie up, in my opinion, is a huge mistake. Their Greninjas are so important. And, if you can get to a place where you don't just have one online, but you have 2 online, pretty much that's game over, right? Like taking 40 chip shot every turn is just too much. And then obviously a deck that carries 2 Cyruses just is way too much pressure, right? And so honestly, best thing they could have done was pulling that Froakie up, and I think they realized there's not much they can dig themselves out of, and we go ahead and take that game. All right, heading into the 4th and final matchup here, we're going to go ahead and see that we are going first. So awesome, just where we want to be. And we see Metal Energy. And so we're going to go ahead and assume that this is a Solgaleo deck, as I think that's pretty much the only competitive deck right now that's using Metal Energy. And so here, once again, you're going to see that, we're leading Suicune, which is not super ideal. It means that, we are going to be doing good on card advantage. But we're going to be a little bit slow. And so instead, now that we drew into that Mantyke, we're going to go ahead and bust that leaf out, pull the Suicune Ex up, and we want to get that energy advantage. So we're going to pull the Mantyke up. We're going to go ahead and allow that to go ahead and throw energy on the Suicune. And here, we are putting the Mantyke in a position where if they're able to put equipment on the Starmie, they will be able to take that out. But we should also be able to put ourselves in a position where, we can, hopefully draw into another basic, pull that Suicune X up, and, be in a position where we can, clear that Starmie out. And so we're going to go ahead and see what they're going to do here. They do have the Cosmog in the back. They're going to go ahead and drop the energy on the Starmie, and they don't have any equipment. So this is actually pretty incredible. And so here, now that we know that we have that next basic Pokemon, we can hit for 80. We're just going to go ahead and steal that energy off of that Starmie, and we're going to take our first prize point. So pretty lucky that they weren't able to draw into any equipment there and be able to clear it out, because that would have been problematic. We would not have been able to actually swing and clear the Starmie, and so a bit fortunate here. But you see here, we now are able to bring that Suicune Ex up. We're going to now be able to draw a card due to its ability, which is great because we were only sitting on 2 cards, a Cyrus and an Irida. And so from here, our goal is going to be to just build up that Staryu in the back and hopefully draw ourselves into a Starmie, because our non-X Suicune isn't going to give us much value because we know that this deck isn't running any Oricorios, right? And so you see that they Iona us, which is totally fine. We had a bunch of cards that, yes, they are valuable, but currently at this point in time weren't going to add a ton of value, right? Like Sabrina is pretty much worthless against the Solgaleo deck unless you're closing the game out, so you can't really use it to tempo tempo Pokemon. And here we're going to drop double capes onto our Suicune Ex and our Staryu just to give them a little bit more staying power. Although, no matter what, we're going to go down to, 2 shots by a Solgaleo. So unfortunately, we can only hit for 60 here because they decide not to put anything down on their bench, which is really smart on their part, right? They're minimizing the amount of damage that we can dish out. Which is important because, even with the cape, that Solgaleo is going to take 10 recoil damage every single time it swings into us. And so, ideally, all we need to do is get it down into a range where we can, knock it out. And so this is where, the free retreat cost on the Starmie X becomes, really, really important here. And also the ability to, be able to kind of bounce in and out. So here, we have a decision to make. Like, do we just go ahead and sacrifice our Suicune X here, build up our Starmie in the back, or do we, bring our Starmie in? And so here, I think you could go either way, to be honest. I think we want to take the 90 damage over the 60 damage because this puts us in a position where, they actually realize there's nothing that they can do, and they call it a game. All right, so overall, I feel like this deck was incredibly powerful. As I said, it took me on that 5-game win streak immediately, and I felt like it could handle just about any deck in the meta. It has so much flexibility built into it with the fact that it's super fast, it's really efficient, it doesn't have a bad start no matter whether you're going first or second, or really any combination of basic Pokemon you have in your hand. And then with kind of the free retreat costs on Starmie, it just allows you to be able to, make a lot of different, really cool decisions, and the deck is super fun to play. I think that's one of my favorite things about it as well. I truly believe that the Mantyke Suicune X package, or even just Suicune X, is going to be a staple in the meta. It is just such a powerful card, and I believe that it'll be a part of just about every single water deck that we see from here on out until we see any, kind of a new massive shakeup in the meta. And so I highly recommend investing in a Suicune X. I think that a Mantyke Suicune X can live in a lot of different packages, and you can have success with them. So really appreciate you stopping by to watch the video. Remember to like it if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And I obviously have a number of different kind of, in-depth deck guides and strategy guides that I've made in the past, so feel free to check out a couple of the ones that I believe are still relevant in the meta. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.